Hey, quick one. Subscribe if you're done being a loser. Let's go.
Take care of it when I get home. And I flew to the south of France and I did this seminar, but then, the mind starts going like, what if he's right? What if there's this? So I went and did the scan and I saw the look on the guy's face when I came out from the MRI. And sure enough, I had a tumor there. It was interesting though, Jay, it was a big tumor. That's why I grew 10 inches in a year. But it infarcted, which means it swallowed a portion of itself up. It's still there. And he said, we still need to do the surgery. So I said, okay, he's a surgeon. Let me go to somebody who's more biochemically driven. So I went to this man in Boston, a neurobiologist, and he was really completely different. He was super warm. And he said, look, he goes, I would never do the surgery. It's way too risky. There's a place in Switzerland you can go to, and you can take an injection once every 6 months. And you'll never have to worry about it, because what they worry about is I have gigantism, it's called. It makes your arteries get really big and then you have a heart attack. And I said, well, doc, you just said my arteries are perfect. And this happened 12 years ago. I said, why would I do anything? He goes, well, we just want to be certain. I said, well, what if I'm not certain the drug's not going to have side effects,
Yeah.
He goes, well, it will really make you tired all the time. I was like, tired all the time? I said, that's the opposite of my whole life. I said, energy's the source of everything for me. And he's like, oh, you're afraid, you're like Samson, you figure to cut your hair. And I said, you're damn right I am, But he was so cool. I said, but the surgeon wants to cut me. He goes, yeah, the baker wants to bake. The butcher wants to butcher, the surgeon wants to cut, and I want to drug you. He was really cool. And I said, what if I did nothing? He goes, but I measured it. Like, I'm not stupid. I go measure it once a year or something. He goes, well, you could do that. And thank God I did, Jay, because 6 months later, the FDA, I was having to go to Switzerland because it wasn't available in the US, and the FDA never allowed it in because they found it created cancer. So I missed a bullet. I went to 5 other docs, so 7 in total. And the last doc told me what I wanted to hear, which was, Tony, you have a huge amount of growth hormone. But he goes, you literally do, I burn 11,300 calories in one day on stage, to give you an idea. This group followed me for 3 years that followed Olympic athletes and Tom Brady and people like that. And so they've measured everything in my body. And he goes, you're doing 2.5 marathons basically in calorie burn in a day, and you're doing 4 days in a row like that. He goes, your ability to recover is insane. He said, 2 or 3 days you've recovered. He goes, that's coming from that growth hormone, I believe. And he said, so I know bodybuilders that are spending $1,200 a month to have what you're getting for free. So that was when I was 31. I'm 62. I've never had a problem since. I've measured it. But it really changed my outlook. And the first one made my outlook look like there is an answer. And the second one, my outlook was there's a price for certainty. And you got to be very careful what price you pay to be certain. You got to find that certainty within yourself, which I know is a lot of what you teach and I do as well, Jay.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through that, and especially going back a bit further as well. I think what I find fascinating about that, Tony, and a lot of the work you do, is why do we as humans often wait to see, not even see pain, you saw pain in someone else and you try to help solve it, and that got you working. But why is it that we often wait to experience pain before we decide to change a part of our lives, make a different choice, to create a shift? Why is it that we wait so often for stress and pressure?
I had that question was burning in me because, I was traveling around, had the privilege of this stage of life, traveling around the earth, and working with people from every walk of life, right? 100 plus countries I've worked in. And I'd see the same problems, even though you'd be in different cultures. Like, going to an Asian culture, it's not about the individual, it's about the group, right? But I'd still see the same problems. And then I got obsessed with it, like, okay, what's the common human experience? Because I'm seeing the same problems, even though it's a different culture, even though it's different beliefs, right? And I began to realize that there are certain human needs, and there were 6 that I identified that I've used ever since, and it's helped me understand. And so one of those needs is certainty, and it's the base human need. Certainty that you can avoid pain and that you can be comfortable is the most basic need. It's a survival need, because if you have continuous pain, that's continuous damage equals death, right? But what happens for people is most people, that first basic need is where they live, they don't grow. Another need, the second need, is uncertainty. Because ironically, if you're certain all the time, you're bored out of your mind. If you're completely uncertain, you're kind of freaked out. And a balance is not it. It's the ability to use both, enter both worlds. And then there's the need for significance, which is a big part of our culture today, thanks to social media. That need to feel special, unique, important, right? It can be a very positive emotion or need. It can be very negative depending upon how it's used, how it's directed. And then there's the need for connection and love, which everybody has. And those 4 needs, everybody finds a way to meet. Even if you have to lie to yourself, work 20-hour days, you're gonna find certainty somehow. You're gonna find variety. You're gonna find some form of significance. Some people do it by tearing other people down. Some people do it by working harder. It's different. You're gonna find some level of at least connection, if not love. But the final 2 are what make people feel alive, which is growing. Everything in the universe grows or dies, and contributing. Everything in the universe contributes or it's eventually eliminated by evolution. So those are the spiritual needs, growth and contribution, where you get beyond yourself. And I think that the majority of us don't take moves because of fear, and fear is just uncertainty. It's that base need. And when I go around and I describe this in more detail, and I work with a big audience, 15, 20,000 people, and I'll say, have them do a set of exercises and have them figure out where do they get, what triggers them to be certain or uncertain, what triggers them to have variety and so forth. So they understand that like everything I do is to meet these needs. But then I get them to say, what are your top 2? Not what you think they should be, not what you want them to be, what are they? And 90% of the people in our culture are certainty and significance or significance and certainty, even though they really want love. So they have this route, like if I can be successful enough, then I'll be worthy of it. Or if I can just control it enough and know it's that way, but you can't control love, right? And so most people they're trying to meet their needs in a kind of a backwards way. And I think that fear, that uncertainty is what keeps most people from growing until they get enough pain. And then that pushes them through a threshold where their needs aren't being met, they gotta change. And unfortunately, most people wait till they have enough pain. Now, that's not my preference. I'm sure it's not yours, but I'm sure you've had experiences as much as I've had where you did have to be pushed that far to get there, right?
Yeah, by the way, I'm so glad I asked you that question because that's the best answer I've ever heard to it. It's brilliant.
Very simple.
It's simple, but it's profound as well, because usually we would say, oh yeah, the reason why we wait till we don't have to change is because we're comfortable and we're okay with it. But really, it's because you're saying these needs keep us trapped almost.
In fact, if you're wanting to change but not changing, it's because some of your needs are met by what you're doing and some of them aren't. That's why you're in that push-pull, but you don't usually do enough until you're pushed over the edge. Like smoking a cigarette, what does it give people? Comfort, because you take a breath of cigarette, you take a nice, slow, deep breath in and take it out, it calms the nervous system, right? It's something that they're comfortable with. It's variety. If they're all stressed out and then they start to breathe differently, it's variety in the body. For some people, they did originally for significance. I'm cool, I'm smoking. Right? Today, it's not really that cool to most people, but for some generations, some places it is. Some people see it as a connection with themselves. But if all of a sudden you're now in a relationship with somebody who doesn't smoke, and you really love them and you want their total love and attention, and they're completely disgusted by cigarettes, now my needs for love, right, are really strong, and my need for this comfort is really strong, and so you have this push-pull. And then some people make the shift, some people don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what you said to me really rung a bell for me, and we spoke a bit about it earlier. Like, I came to a point in my life, there was one point earlier when I left the monastery where I really struggled with my health, which I've spoken about before. But even more recently, and it's interesting, you were 31, I'm 34 now, and it was probably around a similar time, 30, maybe around 30 years old, where I realized that I had 2 choices. I either had to slow down or I had to up my focus on my health.
Right.
And that's why I'm so excited about this book for the world to read. Because you're giving us opportunities and access to thought and ideas and practices and medicine that can help us up our game of our health. Because often what we do is we choose to slow down. We choose to just go, okay, well, I'm just going to do less. And you and I think we both connect on the fact that actually giving and service and contribution and making an impact are such big needs that I was just like, I don't want to stop though. Like, just as you said with the energy point, I don't want to not be able to do as much and give more. So how do I change my health? And that simple decision, it's what led me to be attracted to what you're doing in this book and the work in this area. Talk to us a bit about that energy piece. In the book, you talk a lot about boosting your energy through natural compounds. And when I was reading about this, I was fascinated because we're not hearing about this everywhere.
If somebody were to tell you 5 years ago that you could reverse aging, people would laugh at you. But today, there are billions and billions of dollars being spent by the richest people in the world, mostly in Silicon Valley, and some of the greatest scientists in the world. And there have been breakthroughs in the last 5 years that are amazing. So there's a man named Dr. Sinclair, David Sinclair from Harvard. He's probably the #1 longevity expert in the world, and I write about him in the book. And one thing is he's 53 chronologically, but he's 33 biochemically. I've applied what he's taught me for 6 months now, since I met him, 7 months, maybe 8 months now, and I'm 62, but I'm 51. My goal is to get it down to 41 or 42 if I possibly can. But you go, how's that possible? Well, there are ways of reversing, everybody knows their body's made of stem cells, I'm sure by now. And there's ways of reversing the process of a stem cell, literally from skin back to pluripotent, where it can become anything. The man who did that was Dr. Yamanaka, won the Nobel Prize for it. David Sinclair took his work, applied it to reversing the aging, and he started with mice. And he took these mice that had glaucoma, so they burned out the nerves in the eyes, and those don't regrow. And he's the first time, he'll probably win a Nobel Prize from this, he reversed the aging process and grew back their eyes so they have sight again, to give you an idea. They're using gene therapy. There's a young man that I interviewed in the book there who was on America's Got Talent, who was blind, who now can see by this gene therapies. These are the types of things that just sound like magic. The book is filled with things where I interviewed 150 of the smartest scientists, Nobel laureates, regenerative doctors and scientists to show you what's happening right now that you might think would happen 20 or 30 years from now. Sounds like magic, or within 36 months. That's what it's all really based on. But here's what I want your audience to understand around energy. So everybody's heard of the genome or their DNA, right? You can think of the